Hi, I got an email from Beth, who's one of the people that's downloaded my free tutorial on how to use Thesis 1.7 and WordPress to build a squeeze page. She's done a really good job actually, but she just had one or two questions about this area here and how to style it a little bit more effectively. I think Beth said that she wanted to center this text and possibly change the colour of it from red to another colour. If we do a view source on what Beth's produced and have a look, we can see here that she's got the H2 tags nice and cleanly mentioning the title of her post, and that's fine. WordPress did that for her when she created the post and called it How to Get Your Website Top Internet Rankings. But thereafter, all the stuff that comes underneath it, the other headings that are currently in red, have all been done in a kind of haphazard way here. And we've got nested span tags, look, the colour red, the colour red, the colour red 3 times, 4 times, 5 times within H5 tags. This is what you get if you use the visual editor. It can sometimes mess up, and then it leaves you in a position that makes the whole thing much harder to style. So what I would do is just dispense with the visual editor. I just wouldn't use it, and I would stick to using plain HTML in the HTML editor and adding to the custom CSS file that I included. So Beth, this is what I would do. I'd go back to your squeeze page and recognise that this is the title of the post, which is good. Then I'd say, right, I want some other text underneath. I want this one to be larger, so I might use H3 tags for that. Then I want this to be slightly smaller, so I might use H4 tags for that. And then I want this one to be centered in the middle and large again, so I might use H5 tags for that, but I'd restyle them so that they were the right size, color and positioning to suit me. So if this is the original CSS file that I provided, you would simply add or copy and paste, let's say this H3 like this, and call it H4, and then this one H5. Now I'll just narrow that down a bit so that you can see it at the same time. This one you're happy with, and it's actually referred to here. So the fact that you want that to be green, you just make sure that you put the hex value for green in here, and that you messed around with this font size until it was the right size, and then that will conform to whatever you put here. The next one, if you want to change the colour from red to some other colour, then you just find yourself some sort of colour picker. I happen to use one called Colour Schema. And let's just say you wanted the colour to be this purple. Well, you'd find the hex value for the purple. And now we're going to call this one H3. So I'd just go to my now H3 tags and change the colour there to be the purple colour. Change the font size if it's too small or too large to be the size you want. You need to just play around with that. Make the font weight bold. Now if you want it to be aligned in the center, you just simply add text align : center like that, and then move on to this bit where you've got 3 lines of text which you might want to have a little bit smaller, so then I'd style those as H4s. Similarly, I'd change the color here, the size, and if I wanted it to be text align center, I would also add text align center to the H4, and then I'd remember that I wanted to use H4 here. And then finally for H5, I would restyle my H5s to be how I wanted this to be, and I'd change the color, the size, and again if I wanted it aligned center, I'd add a text align center. Basically you just play around with these, having added H5s and H4s to the list that I originally gave you in this CSS file, and just change the colours until you're happy. And then when you go back to your code, if I go back to the view page source here, rather than all this stuff here where you've got H5, span reds like millions of times. Don't do that. What you would do is simply, just like you've got it here, put what you want to say within plain tags and nothing else. So just simply type H3 in this case, get your free report, and then close H3. None of this font stuff. So go into the HTML editor and just do that. I mean, I'd have to go into one of my blogs to do that for you, to show you what I mean. Let me just go into this one. I'd edit an existing post. I've just got a rubbish post here. Remember, you've got your squeeze page post. In your case, you've got that line here. And then at the top, you'd need to have the stuff we mentioned. So you'd have get your free report. And notice I'm in the HTML editor. Get your free report, and I'd simply put that between H3 tags, like that. No problem. And then go back and get these 3 lines, paste them in, and then I put these into H4 tags. Now, possibly these should be restyled list tags, but I'm just showing you one method that you could use here. Or maybe you don't want them in 3 separate H4s. You would have to decide whether you want to maybe just put this all in a single H4. I mean, I don't know. That's this is just one idea. And then finally, going back to this, you might put this particular line here underneath, but put that, oopsie daisy, in H5 tags. That is very plain. You haven't messed around and put extra font tags because you haven't used the visual editor. It's nice and clean. And then how that behaves when you view it will be decided by the CSS file that you have now changed up to style, how an H3 comes out, how an H4 comes out, and how an H5 comes out. This particular bit here actually strikes me as more like a list. I don't know if you intend this bit to be the title and then these 2 bits to be bullet points under the title. I'm unsure, but certainly you could go back to your CSS file and just copy this custom UL that I did here and just call it UL something else, and it might be UL highlights or something, i.e. the highlights of your points that you're making about your product, and restyle the size and the weight, the colours here of the fonts, or the gap at the bottom, and then simply, instead of having these 3 H4s, you might have UL and then close UL, and then 3 lots of list item like this. And then you might put your 3 points in here, like this. I mean, this might not be how you want to lay it out. I'm just showing you an alternative. And then you might get rid of that bit and basically concentrate on styling this one, which is now called ul.highlights. So you put class equals highlights, you spell it correctly, and then whatever you decide to style this as, you know, size, colour, whatever, will be applied to this particular bullet list. That's if you want it to be a bullet list, but you could use the H4s as I did earlier. I hope that makes sense. Let me know.